Today I have been given, I think, about 1 hour to talk. I have a presentation and I will go through that presentation fairly quickly. Then I will also run through the list of questions that many of you have prepared and I have been given in advance. So by going through my presentation, I will answer some of your questions. I will subsequently go through a few more, and I think then the hour will be finished, and hopefully you will have many more questions for the subsequent session. I want to start talking about something that was defined a long time ago, or at least a long time for some of us. In 1987, the World Commission on Environment and Development agreed a definition on sustainable development. And it is very difficult to translate it into any other language but English. But it is important to remind the whole world of the fact that we have agreed this definition as a global community. And the most important element in this definition for climate change is future generations. When we talk about future generations, we're talking about your grandchildren or maybe your great-grandchildren. You are comparatively young people taking responsibilities today. It is very important that we understand that this is not necessarily a problem, but something that needs to guide us through our actions. I will talk now in some specific terms about the basics of global climate change, about the effects or impacts of global climate change on Vietnam, but also the whole world, about GHG mitigation, that is really greenhouse gas emissions reduction. GHG is greenhouse gas. I will talk about the United Nations and climate change, and I will draw some conclusions. So first, a little bit about global climate change. What is it? Well, it is a variation in the global climate over time. You need to try to understand that climate is not the same as weather. Weather is what we have today and we can predict it for tomorrow. Climate is over a much longer period of time changing also. Very important, you will have heard about this many times, I think, in the press and maybe in your lectures, is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. A commission of that panel has recently met also in Hanoi to discuss some technical matters, some scientific matters. It is a body that has members from Vietnam, from most major countries of the world and many small countries of the world, and they are scientists. And they have come to a conclusion, and some people call this the lowest common denominator. That means all of them agree. In the so-called fourth assessment report in 2007, they agreed projections or predictions of how then the climate is changing as a result of global community action, as a result of people, of what we do. It means that there are scientists who do not agree with that report fully, because they think it is worse than what the report says. It is not so that there are scientists who disagree with the fact of climate change. There is a lot of discussion about that in the global press, but no serious scientist challenges climate change. What they challenge is how bad is it going to be, not whether it is happening and will happen. Anyway, so they do lots of predictions, but they are probabilities or statistical possibilities. They cannot say it's 2 degrees or 3 degrees, but they can say it is likely to be so much. Anyway, the conclusion is that all kinds of weather phenomena change, and the overall climates are changing. It's getting warmer, it's getting wetter, it's getting drier, and so on and so forth. I also think most of you will already know why. What are the causes of global climate change? It is because of greenhouse gases in the higher atmosphere that trap the heat that comes from the sun into the earth. It just can't bounce back, it can't get out. Greenhouse gases are many, and water vapor, just ordinary water vapor, is in fact perhaps the most important one. But we talk about what the humans have added to the atmosphere, and that is particularly CO2, carbon dioxide, because we are burning petrol, coal, gas, and other matters. Coal, gas, and petrol, of course, the most important ones. However, global climate change is an extremely complicated, scientifically speaking, process. And there are many things going on that work in the opposite direction. So a very interesting contradiction, or an apparent contradiction, is that when we have a bus, yeah, many people here go by bus, I guess, they choke out this dark black smoke. It's terrible. And they make the air in Hanoi almost impossible to breathe. And it is because there are small particles in the air. And these small particles in the air actually cause global cooling. So by cleaning up the air, by not having these buses and trucks, it's getting warmer. So that's a funny contradiction. Next slide, please. This illustrates a bit what I just said. The most important thing is that heat is trapped behind or underneath a layer of greenhouse gas. The best example is you sit in a car, you switch off the air conditioning, you close the windows, and the sun shines through the window. It will get very hot inside your car very, very quickly. Children sometimes left behind in cars because mom or dad needs to go shopping, they die because it can get 90 degrees within no time. And people don't realize how fast it goes. Anyway, that's the primary process causing the warming. Some of you have asked me, for example, what is ENSO, E-N-S-O, and why is it there? What is the cause of it? Most people know it by the common names. El Niño. It is a Spanish word for the child or the Christ child. And the reason they called it El Nino is that some fishermen from South America had observed for many generations that sometimes during Christmas, which means December, late December, certain temperatures of the sea suddenly changed, cooling or heating. And that was associated with changes in the weather patterns. At the moment in Vietnam, there is an El Nino happening. An El Nino year means that the rainfall patterns in this part of the world have changed for this year. The weather services of Vietnam already predicted last summer that this would happen because they could see the temperatures of the sea change. And therefore, indeed, what we now read in the newspapers about the Mekong River and the Mekong Delta, but also the upper regions of the Mekong River in China, there is almost no water. The Red River is also extremely low, even though we have had a little bit of some thin rain in the past few days. Now, this is because it's an El Nino year. But why is El Nino happening? We don't really know. We only know that it is associated, it relates to temperatures of seawater. But why do the temperatures of seawater suddenly change? Well, it is because of certain streams of seawater all over the globe, and that is extremely difficult to explain why that suddenly changes.